From lame to fame. That's how I categorize the Broncos 2023 draft. The Denver Broncos may have only had a couple draft picks, but the Walton Penner Group needs to be credited for two things. One, taking some very interesting prospects, and two, saving an endangered species. A species so endangered we actually thought they were extinct. A+ effort for the Broncos' conservation efforts, which led to the saving of the white NFL corner, the rarest of them all. Today, I'll break down the Broncos draft class and slowly convince all of us how they won the draft with no first or second round picks heading into the draft. They did so by staying true to their best player available formula, taking receiver and linebacker with their first two picks. Two areas that were not at all in need, but let's do it. That's good. Broncos. Agree or disagree? Subscribe. Yeah, I do have new Patreon shoutouts for Jason Hopkins and Jesse James. Next week, we'll be doing our Zoom hangout for all $10 patrons or all $10 YouTube members. Either one works. I'll give you the link in the info for that next week, and we can talk about all the draft shit. And it's a great way to support this channel, as is buying my coffee over at benchwarmerbrew.com, where we get ethically sourced, small batch craft coffee, which is a nice way of saying my coffee is better than the bullshit you get at the grocery store. Alright, things got wild before the draft even started, okay? Sean Payton got so bored not having any picks in the first round, he was filmed taking bong rips. Honestly, you'd have to be pretty high to want to take the Broncos coaching job in the first place, right? However, we cannot confirm that this is Sean Payton. Looks like him, but I'm not sold. Heading into the draft, the Denver Broncos did not have any first round or second round picks, but they traded into the second round with the Lions to select Oklahoma receiver Marvin Mims. Then they selected Razorback linebacker Drew Sanders, and after I thought the night was done, traded back into the third with, not the Seahawks, to take, yes, Riley Moss. That's right, Riley Moss. It would be like if Riley Cooper and Randy Moss transcended those racial barriers, mostly created by the racist Riley Cooper, but then found a way for two men to have a baby. Boom, Riley Moss is born. But let's save that succulent mustache for last, and let's start with their first pick, Marvin Mims, Oklahoma receiver who the Denver Broncos traded into the second round to select. They only moved up a few spots, but Mims has already drawn about 36,000 comparisons to Emmanuel Sanders. So instead, I will comp him to Brandon Cooks. Mims averaged 20.1 yards per catch and has a 4.38 speed, aka he's very fast. In high school, Mims set the national record for most receiving yards in a season with 2,629. He was so dominant that all of the teams he destroyed in high school had their government funding taken away. A lot of people can't read because of him. That's not a good thing, though, I guess. At Oklahoma last year, he had just over 1,000 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns. In 2021, he had that insane grab against the Longhorns to help Oklahoma pull off an incredible come-from-behind victory. Now, Marcus Mosher tweeted that Mims is one of the most slept-on receivers in the draft. Personally, I'm drawn to the most slept with receiver, but this is still good. Mims feels like a KJ Hamler replacement, with speed being one of Mims' greatest strengths. Now, we're all pulling for Hamler, but KJ's hammies keep pulling him off the field. Mims is also 5'11" to KJ's 5'9", so a little better suited to be, tall enough for us to see. Mims also played with significant changes around him every single year at Oklahoma, as he referenced on Good Morning Football back in March.
I've been through it all, changes in coaching staff, receiver coaches, different one every year. Had all different types of receiving coaching towards me, responded well to all of it. three different quarterbacks, stay consistent in my play as we talked about, played every position.
Mims has great hands and could be Russell Wilson's #1 deep threat, a la Tyler Lockett. I think Sean Payton can get very creative with Mims. Line him up in the slot for a free release and then send him out and down the sidelines for Russ to moonball to. I don't know how the fuck it works. The last 3 receivers, though, Sean Payton drafted in the first 2 rounds are Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks, and Robert Meacham. I like their track record. And if he's like Brandon Cooks, it's going to be crazy to see him become the first player traded to every single team in the league. Everyone loves the fit for Sean Payton, and if you recall, Sean did have Emmanuel Sanders on his roster in 2020 when Sanders had 61 receptions and 5 touchdowns. His biggest knock is being physical enough to get off contact when running routes. But again, in single coverage, he had a 99.9 grade and has been touted for his willingness as a blocker. The Broncos also view him as an elite returner, so special teams may be a calling for him.
Punt return ability, kick return ability. I mean, I got it. Special teams playing gunner.
One thing Sean Payton has made clear is that the Broncos special teams sucking ass for the last several years will not fly under his watch. Mostly, I'm just excited to see Mims do this celebration after catching a touchdown against the Raiders or Chargers or Chiefs. Mims is now Wiggle Man in my eyes. Yes, King Wiggle Man. The Mims pick received grades of A, B+, A-, C, and B-, so the consensus draft grade for Mims is about a B+. I'll bump that up to an A, considering he's already embraced the "Let's Ride" catchphrase with his first tweet. Then we've got Drew Sanders. This really feels like a Vance Joseph influenced pick. If you remember, when he was the DC in Arizona, they drafted hybrid linebacker Isaiah Simmons and then Zaven Collins a year later. Simmons, coming out of Clemson, was this crazy 6'4" athlete who could play linebacker or safety or even slot corner. He started at safety his sophomore season and then linebacker his final year where he notched 8 sacks. Zaven Collins, also 6'4", was more of a traditional linebacker who could also play outside. Drew Sanders is another gifted athlete at linebacker, also 6'4", who played the Mike linebacker at Arkansas after transferring over from Alabama, where he probably would have started as an edge player. Denver will use him as an inside linebacker, according to Sean Payton, but it's nice having a guy they can use on the edge since they do need some depth there. He's kind of like Baron Browning in terms of the versatility, but they chose Browning for the edge. A luxury with both of those guys on the field will be manipulation, if desired, to disguise coverages pre-snap. Sanders' production in 2022 was pretty insane. 103 tackles, 13.5 tackles for a loss, 9.5 sacks, 1 interception, 5 pass deflections, and 3 forced fumbles. Another word for that is playmaker. The 9.5 sacks stand out, and I like the idea of him blitzing from the interior. Some scouts ranked him as the best linebacker in this draft class. That's right, the best, and had him as high as the 28th overall best prospect. Pro Football Focus ranked him second, just behind Jack Campbell, who Detroit took in the middle of the first round. The Draft Network had him as their best overall linebacker, which means Denver got incredible value taking him in the 3rd round. Let's just hope Vance deploys him more effectively than he did with Simmons and Collins in Arizona. Now this pick was a bit of a surprise because I don't think any of us here in Broncos country were looking at the linebacker spot as an area the Broncos were going to target, especially after they signed Mr. Underrated himself, Alex Singleton. But I respect that Denver went with their best player available approach and may have found 2 starters as late as they did in this draft. Sanders was once the #1 rated high school player in the state of Texas. And considering the state of Texas puts football ahead of healthcare, formal education, and even guns, that's very impressive. With grades of A, B+, A-, A+, A+, B+, the consensus draft grade for Drew Sanders is A. Now, after all of that maneuvering that the Broncos did, they went into day 3 with just 2 6th-round picks. Through the years, the Broncos have found some absolute studs in the 6th round, including Hall of Famer Terrell Davis, running back Mike Anderson was a 6th, Will Parks, Matt Paradis, who they should have never let go, and my man Danny Trevathan, who they should have never let go. This year, though, in the 6th round, they select Boise State safety JL
Skinner,
another 6'4" guy. Holy shit, we will have the tallest back end on defense in the NFL. Boise State fans have already compared him to Steve Atwater, and since he was technically already a Bronco, I'm going to just go ahead and agree he is the next Steve Atwater. And right before selecting again in the 6th, Denver traded with the Saints, giving up their other 6th rounder, acquiring a 7th from New Orleans, and tight end Adam Trautman. Half fish, half man. Some people wanted Denver to draft a tight end, not me, but here you go. And to complete their smallest draft class since 2007, at pick 257, the third to last pick, the Denver Broncos selected Oregon center Alex Forsyth. Now, I know what you're thinking. Third to last player in the draft, won't even make the team. Wrong. Remember Brock Purdy from last season? Well, this is the Brock Purdy of letting quarterbacks stick their hands on your ass. Oh, God, he is good at that. Now, the player that I think got Twitter the most fired up was Iowa corner Riley Moss. The Gardner Minshew of cornerbacks, if you will. Riley Moss once mossed an entire offense with 2 pick sixes in the same game. One of which was a great read and a perfectly timed jump on the route. Several of his other picks, based on his highlights, looked a little more opportunistic, but there's something to be said for being in a position to make those easy picks, and he had 11 picks in his career at Iowa. Now, part of his skill may be camouflage. Quarterbacks are, quote, not used to seeing a white corner in outside coverage. Can't see them if you don't think they exist, right? Just a GOAT-level pick for the Broncos regime. Plus, Denver needed a Greg Dulcich facial mold on defense to balance things out. I say only draft players who have mustaches from now on, Broncos. Now the question was, will Moss play safety or corner in the NFL? That wasn't just a question once Denver selected him, but when scouts evaluated exactly how white he really is. I think Riley Moss has the speed to play corner in the NFL. He was a track star. This clip of him hurdling shows how fast he really is compared to other white high school kids. Okay, maybe he will convert to safety, but that's also fine. Welcome to Milky Mustache Island, where you can check out anytime you like, but you're not gonna wanna leave. Sean Payton stated in his press conference that they probably spent more time chewing through Moss tape than anyone else to make sure that he was the guy at corner. To keep the legacy of Jason Sehorn alive, I hope he sticks and plays corner for his whole career. But even if he plays both corner and safety, or is eventually converted to safety, at 6'1", he has the size and range to do so. Moss received the highest Pro Football Focus college career grade with a 91.9 of any corner in this draft. He's also an elite trash talker according to reports. And I think you have to be a Caucasian corner at this level. Now, getting a white guy out of Iowa is like finding water in the ocean or plastic in the ocean. But they managed to get the best white guy not named Van Ness. With grades of B, A, B-, B, C+, the consensus draft grade for Riley Moss is B. Look, I'm not trying to oversell this draft class, all right? A dozen things can fuck up these picks, but as someone who had almost no excitement heading into this draft as a Broncos fan, it's hard to not get a little juiced when you see places like Pro Football Network give Denver the Day 2 Draft of the Day honors. And most of the other football places graded their picks very highly. So I think, unlike what happened last football season where Broncos fans went into the year with high expectations and got disappointed, we went into the draft with low expectations and are walking away moderately optimistic. Thanks for watching That's Good Sports. Please subscribe here on YouTube. Come back tomorrow. Should have one more draft video out before we recap the playoffs of the XFL football happening Sunday.